On behalf of DIC, I warmly welcome Shri Praful Ketkar ji, our speaker of today, of the Friday series of lecture. Before I invite him to the stage to deliver a talk, I would like to say a few words about Shri Praful ji. He is the editor of prestigious weekly magazine Organizer. This magazine is the oldest nationalist magazine of India since 2013. He has an experience of over 20 years in the field of research, media, and academics. He is also the governing council member, School of Journalism, Delhi University. He has been writing on issues related to international politics and foreign policy, with special reference to China and Southeast Asia, trade and economy, and non-military security issues. He was also a member of editorial team of recently published complete work on Sri Pandit Deen Dayal Upadhyay ji, which has got 15 volumes. He is a member of JNU Court and National Book Promotion Council. Sri Ketkar ji has worked as a newsreader and translator with All India News Services Division of All India Radio. He was also an assistant professor and head of the head in one of the colleges affiliated with University of Pune. Sri Ketkar is a political science graduate and masters in political science from University of Pune and MPhil from JNU New Delhi in international politics. He worked on many research projects. He has worked at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies, New Delhi, as a Ford Scholar and co-authored a book titled Alternative Approaches to Security. He has 2 books and 29 academic articles, 2 entries in Encyclopedia of India on India's foreign policy towards Europe, and a brief biography of Lal Krishna Advani, and numerous research publications to his credit. He has visited many countries as part of Bharatiya delegation, especially China, Myanmar, Bangladesh, and Vietnam. He is a regular panelist on many news channels like DD News, Times Now, ABP News, IBN Lokmat, Republic, etc. And he gives views on political and foreign policy issues. So now I will request Shri Praful Ketkar ji to kindly guide us with his vast field of knowledge on today's topic. I heartily welcome Shri Praful Kumar ji to take over the mic, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Director of DIC, and I really thank Ambedkar International Center for organizing this talk.
वॉइस आ रही है क्या? अदरवाइज आई थिंक वी आर नॉट एबल टू लिसन टू प्रफुल्ल जी. हेलो. I think there is some technical problem. Praful ji has just left us from the participants list. He'll be joining very soon. Just a minute. No, your voice is again gone, Praful ji. प्रफुल्ल जी, आपकी आवाज हम सुन नहीं पा रहे हैं. प्रफुल्ल जी, आपकी आवाज नहीं सुन पा रहे हैं हम। हेलो प्रफुल्ल जी।
Sorry, the constraints of virtual world. So the topic that I propose to talk on is Ambedkar and his contribution to Indian thinking and Indian social political philosophy as a journalist, because this is one aspect of his contribution which I believe has been neglected by and large. Though there are few works and a couple of doctoral theses that are done on his writings as a journalist, the contribution and the zeal behind that journalism is not properly put forth, as he is seen either as just as a constitution maker or as a Dalit icon. And yes, these two roles and two positions are critical. But besides that, Babasaheb Ambedkar was a great economist. He was a social reformer. He was, in a way, contributed to history and anthropological perspectives from Indian point of view. But similarly, he is interestingly talking about the Indian version of journalism also, which many of us haven't, analyzed and understood in proper terms. So what I propose to do is, just to present and glance through his, journalistic fascinating journey, which is interwoven in a way of his role as a reformer and a political leader. This journey, though starts, formally much later, we can see that kind of zeal of using writings for political awareness and socio political sensitization from very early period. And but today this becomes even more important, because this year precisely is the 100th year of his formal beginning of journalism. On 31st January 1920, he came up with the first edition of the journalistic venture he started, called Mookanayak. The voice or the leader of the voiceless. So that itself, an important point why in 1920, he felt like having this kind of uh, uh, venture should be started. And then from Mookanayak to Prabuddha Bharat, which he started very late in his life in 19 he even played a role as managing the entire journalistic venture. So this journey can be understood in broadly in three parts. But I will start with his last important quote which he spoke about Indian press and journalism, and I will end also with the quote. These are two important quotes that binds the journey of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar as a journalist. On 27th September 1951, Ambedkar resigned from the Union cabinet. And the way his resignation was portrayed in media, and the way the discussion that took place on 10th of October 1951, he issued a statement outside Parliament, uh, as he was unwilling to provide an advance copy of it to the speaker. He said that he was issuing the statement for three reasons. After giving first two reasons, he said, thirdly, we have our newspapers, they have their age-old bias in favor of some and against others. Their judgments are seldom based on merits. Whenever they find an empty space, they are prone to fill the vacuum by supplying grounds for resignations which are not the real grounds, but which put those whom they favor in a better light, and those not in their favor in a bad light. Some such thing I see has happened even in my case. Now, this is a very revealing statement, and when we are in the era of what is being called today as agenda journalism, or motivated journalism, which is prevalent, it clearly shows that in the first phase of independent India also, we went through the same kind of biases. As I said, if we divide his journey as a journalist, 1920 was the beginning. And what he realized after a stint of his stay in Columbia and the excellent academic career, he realized that if this knowledge has to be used for the better cause and larger awakening, then journalism is the best tool. And in his first editorial itself, which was published on 31st Jan 1920 in Mukanayak, he wrote, if we throw even a cursory glance over the newspaper that are published in the Bombay Presidency, we will find that many among these papers are only concerned about protecting the interest of some, and these can't care less for the interest of other castes. This is not all. Sometimes they go against the interest of others. But what he concludes is much more important. He says, and that shows why he started, his venture of journalism in the form of Mukanayak. He concludes, there is no better source than the newspaper to suggest the remedy to the injustice that is being done to our people at present and will be done in future, and also to discuss the ways and means for our progress in the future. So he was very clear about the objective that he wants to define for himself as far as journalism is concerned. Now, as I said, this can be seen broadly in three parts. 1920, he started this Mukanayak. It was with support from Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj, the great visionary ruler of Kolhapur, who was also inheriting Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, throne, one of the legacies. He provided the financial support, and that's how Dr. Ambedkar started this as a an independent venture with his close associates. Interestingly, whenever he went out, he handed over the baton to some of his confidants, and he continued the battle on journalistic ground. He tried to broadly give the guidance and monitor whenever he realized that he is not in a position to give full-fledged justice to that role. This is again a very peculiar feature of Dr. Ambedkar, because he had to prioritize his thing, because immediately after starting MOOC Nayak, he had to go back to London to complete his DSc. He handed over it to Mr. Golab, one of his close associates, and eventually after some time there were certain difference of opinion, and that difference of opinion was also on certain ground. There was a constant tussle between Ambedkar and his associates, and even the larger journalistic environment that existed that time in especially in Mumbai presidency, as far as the advertisement policy is concerned. He was very clear that there has to be a clear-cut advertisement policy, and advertisement should be accepted, or financial support should be accepted only on the principal ground. Unprincipled advertisement support that favoring or that is going against the core objectives of the journalistic venture is not acceptable for Dr. Ambedkar, and that is something which is even relevant today, because when we are seeing today with the corona crisis, of course media is going through different kind of strain, but this has been a debate for a long time about, as far as when we entered, especially from 2008-9, when we started discussing due to the initiative from Election Commission of India about the entire debate about paid journalism or paid news. Here, Ambedkar is providing a basic fundamental guideline to our media houses, that there cannot be a compromise with fundamental editorial ethics while accepting advertisements. Now, I think this is a very important contribution, and for which what he did, interestingly, is he didn't threw away the editor. He actually stay on the sidelines of this venture and decided editor to take a call. So he in a way believed in editorial autonomy also, because he was more in a managerial role thanks to his stint in London. He had changed himself in that role. So MOOC Nayak continued to play that role almost for 2-3 years, but this particular thing as a management responsibility, he decided to give prominence to the editorial autonomy rather than dictating something from the management. When he was in London, interestingly, though this is not considered as the journalistic writing, for me it is equally important from journalism point of view, because in his stay at London School of Economics, he on the one hand continued to guide his associates who were working with MOOC Nayak. He continuously wrote letters to them and focused on the issues of issues related to India and Indian social milieu. He also visited to Germany and tried to study Sanskrit there. And during his stay in London, he presented one thought-provoking research paper titled Responsibilities of a Responsible Government in India. Now, this was essentially at the gathering of students, organization of students, but British economist and political theorist Harold Laski opined that the views expressed by Dr. Ambedkar in this paper are of a revolutionary nature when it comes to the ideas related to representative government. And that, I feel, is a very important recognition to what Dr. Ambedkar was doing. Due to financial constraints, he was forced to come back to Mumbai again in April 1923. And he rewrote this paper on the basis of which he was awarded DSc by the London University. So this, remarkable achievement of achieving MSc and DSc in just 2.5 years was a unprecedented kind of thing. No other Indian freedom fighter could achieve that. Here another important point that should be kept in mind. Ambedkar had his from his school days, he had his education with English as a medium, thanks to his background both from maternal and paternal side, with the armed forces. Both his father and maternal uncle were serving in British Indian army. So he had his education in English. But when it came to the journalistic writing, he chose Mukanayak as a title, which was more Marathi or Indian in nature. And at the same time, he decided to write in Marathi. So his initial editorials used to be written first in English and then translated in Marathi, and he consciously made it an effort that the journalism should be done for in the language of the common people. And because he was addressing mainly to the then Bombay presidency, he chose to write in Marathi. Now again, this was a remarkable vision, that if the objective is to suggest remedy to injustice and use newspaper or journalism as a source to sensitize and educate people on certain issues, then it has to be in the language of common people. That is another important value that we can see Ambedkar has presented in practice, not just through preaching. Now post 23, there was sort of gap as far as his journalism is concerned, because he shifted the gear and he went into more legal battle. On the one hand, he started practicing as a lawyer, and at the same time started building a sort of organization for the larger movement, which culminated into the famous Mahad Satyagraha. Here we should understand the formation of Bahishkrit Hitakarani Sabha that he founded in 1924 as an important venture, because he was president of the executive committee, and to liberation of untouchable through this organization was defined as the objective. So this Bahishkrit Hitakarani Sabha became the foundation of his next journalistic the venture that he has undertaken. 1927 brought a decisive turn when he undertook the entire issue of Mahad Satyagraha, and for to liberate the Mahad Lake for access to all. And then up to 1930, when he went into even temple movements. These two episodes in between actually define his another important aspect here is he uses while doing this second attempt, he uses the same strategies that Lokmanya Tilak used at one point when he used to write either in Kesari or Maratha. And he starts a second venture called Bahishkrut Bharat, the India of outcast or the ostracized India. This was an interesting venture because here now the movement is at the peak, and first time somebody using a journalistic tool or media publication as a mouthpiece for certain movement, and that movement is exclusively based for the liberation of untouchables. So on 3rd of April 1927, this was launched again as a fortnightly. As his famous biography, in his famous biography, Dr. Dhananjay Keer writes how meaningful and touching the title of the newspaper was. Two Indias, ostracized India, but India all the same. India, but ostracized India. Through Bahishkrit Bharat, Ambedkar started attacking his detractors and advising his people. Like Tilak, he wrote Punascha Hariom, again Hariom. So he was conscious that he is actually restarting his journey in the field of media. Bahishkrit Bharat was launched almost 4 years after the closure of Mukanayak, and it continued publication for next 2 years. Last issue was published on 19th November 1929. In between, there were some breaks due to financial constraints, and whenever this happened, Ambedkar chose to publish joint issues. So he always believed that this commitment to the readers, and interestingly, that annual subscription amount and advertisement rates are transparently published on each and every edition of Bahishkrit Bharat. 24 columns for the newspaper, writing single-handedly. He completely kept a control, and he made it as a it was a very different from the the editorial lines and the culture that we see today, or even prevalent in most of the publications. Interestingly, what we see in India's entire struggle for independence is almost each and every prominent freedom fighter has ventured into some kind of journalism or supporting some kind of journalism, whether it is Mahatma Gandhi or Lokmanya Tilak or Savarkar or Dr. Ambedkar, everybody, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, everybody, either started some media house or supported somebody to start a media house. There, the importance of print journalism to awaken masses was an important tool. But Ambedkar felt that the society that he wants to address, which is not that educated, do not have access to education, for them, writing and making their voice heard to the larger society is equally important. And therefore, Bahishkrit Bharat officially carried his name as editor. He published the inaugural issue, and around 33 leaders and 150 articles published in Bahishkrit Bharat are now available even in English. On 20th April 1927, Ambedkar started this important initiative. And this was also the peak of Mahad Satyagraha. Here, I think 3 editorials. I believe that 3 editorials are landmark editorials of Dr. Ambedkar. The first one is the religious battle of Mahad and the responsibility of Savarna Hindus. It is a clarion call we have to say only this much. Till today, we believe that Mahatma Gandhi said that untouchability is a big blot on Hindu religion. But now we have changed our view. We now believe that untouchability is a blot on us. As long as we believe that untouchability was blot on the Hindu religion, we gave the responsibility of removing it to you. But now that we know it is a blot on us, we have decided to take it in our hand. Now, this was a complete, a change of course as far as the movement is concerned. That is not all. Ambedkar writes at the end of the editorial, we earnestly wish that blood is not split in this important endeavor for our liberation and for the liberation of our people. But if there is a blood spilling due to the obduracy of people sticking with Brahmanism, we won't be responsible for it. They should remember this. Now, this is a call to the mindset of casteism and the caste-based discrimination. So he is giving first address to that particular group where who is not ready to accept the change reality and the growing awakening as far as the the issue of untouchability is concerned. The second editorial is equally important, which talks about the religious battle of Mahad and the responsibility of the British government, which was published on 6th May 1927. Ambedkar compared the obscurantist and traditional norms and the laws of the British government, argued that he was in accordance with the British laws and rules that the untouchables had marched to Chaudhar Talab, the lake. What he argues that if the government dilly-dallied in helping the untouchables, thinking that it should not rub the Savarnas the wrong way at this juncture, then this would paralyze the government and would cripple the system of governance. He is giving a call to the conscience of the British conception of rule of law. And he says, if you are not really, addressing this issue with the purely legal perspective and allowing some kind of what the word he has used as the Gundaism or the violence, then you are not doing your duty. And third editorial he wrote on 20th May, where, he addresses this to his core audience of untouchables. He says the reason why the system of untouchability persisted is that the untouchable never expressed any doubts about its validity. Had they had questioned the system and objected to it, the Savarnas would have altered their views long ago. And hence, our advice to untouchable brothers is that what they have done at Mahad, they should do at other places too. Nothing will be achieved without this kind of, apparent confrontation. So these are the three groups he was addressing, through Bahishkrut Bharat. Now, besides this this particular line of Bahishkrut Bharat, there is another important aspect that he has addressed through it, which I believe